The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and on tonight's show, we are joined, as always, by the lovely Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been so far so good, shall we say.
Have you managed to gaffer tape the kids to the wall yet for like, the half term to keep them out of the way?
Not yet, it's in reserve, is all I'm saying. Half term, we're only 2 days in really, and yeah, good old kids, they gotta love them.
Yeah, that's still 2 days too long though. At least they'll be early for next week. Or whenever they go back.
Yeah, this is true. But no, it's all good. All good.
Excellent. Cool. Have you been up to anything paranormal over the weekend?
Well, I've just written a new blog that I sent to you this morning.
That's the one that's not up yet, isn't it?
That's the one that's not up yet. There was a little private nag there, in case anyone missed it. A subtle nag. And I wrote another one today. I finished another one today. And I've started on another one. So, yeah, I've been writing today.
I've only got one more blog to write, and that's about the Green Children of Woolpit, or Wolf Pit, as it was known back then.
That's interesting. That is an interesting...
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other night, weren't we?
Yeah, I was sharing my thoughts on it, and yeah, because I like to plan my blogs and sort of like what way to go, especially with the time travel one.
You can do a continuation almost, so like an idea that's come out of a blog you've written, then moves on. Anyway, we're not talking about that tonight.
No, we're not. No, tonight we are also joined by another guest, Sam Bennetts.
Hello,
Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Have you been up to much over the bank holiday weekend?
Well, I was on an event at the weekend and then came down to Kent, and we've been to the cinema today, and I can't even remember what I did yesterday. Where did I go yesterday? We went out yesterday with all the kids. I can't remember where.
Whereabouts in Kent are you?
In Seal, so near Ramsgate.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we've done some investigations down there. Ramsgate Maritime Museum.
Yes,
We'd like to go and visit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kerry's been there as well.
I'd like to do Margate Theatre.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. One of our investigators got locked in there afterwards. That was so funny. I ushered everybody out and thought he'd gone, and he decided to go to the toilet without telling anyone. So we told the owner that it was all clear, everyone was out. And he got locked in.
Oh, he finds that so amusing. After all these years, he still finds that one amusing. So Sam, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do in the field and how you came to be in the paranormal.
Okay, so in the field at the moment, I'm a psychic, clairvoyant medium, but also a paranormal investigator. But it all started at the age of 1, when my psychic abilities were first seen by my mum. By the time I was 3, I was making my mum make dinners, like for the spirit children that were around me, because I wouldn't eat my dinner without them eating it. And it just carried on progressing, and I always felt that I was rather crazy and different to most other kids, really. And by the age of 13, I started reading to members of the public. From Yeah, so from 13, I did that. At 15, I became a psychometry reader. At 18, I was in the spiritual churches. Always done investigations, I think, from about the age of 8. I've been doing investigations. So I've travelled a lot around the country. And then I started getting into the witchcraft side of things because I'm a white witch as well. So I went into that field, and I teach a lot of that. And then when Haunted Happenings started 10 years ago, I was one of their first team. We went to the Ancient Ram Inn and the mediums fell asleep, so I took over. I was a guest that particular night and took over, and then next thing you know, I was Hazel's best friend. Yeah, so, and then from there, I started being a resident medium at Hellfire Caves, so I was there, so I get to work a lot with GPS as well. And obviously over the years, I've had so many different spiritual experiences. I question though, but I put it all into writing, and I wrote my first book, and I wanted to call it Psychic or Psycho, because that's how I feel half the time when I see dead people, but my publisher wouldn't allow that and said I had to call it clairvoyant or crazy. So but I'm one of those, I might be clairvoyant, I might speak to the dead, but at the same time I question absolutely everything, so I'm very sceptical on everything that I see and do. But I'm quite known as well for all my premonitions that I have, worldly premonitions, and I'll put them up like on social media, and within a day to 2 weeks of putting them up, it happens. Yeah, so I just forgot. Yeah, so if I look back to the age of 1, I'm looking at 46 years, but to the members of the public, I'm just approaching 34 years. Yeah.
The thing is with having it from such a young age, going through your teenage years, and that is quite an embracing thing. Did you have any trouble as a child with that embracing, or did you just accept it?
I didn't know what was going on, to be fair. I just thought I was losing the plot because I was seeing these people and hearing these voices constantly. It was affecting my education. It was affecting my friendships. And that's why by the time I got to the age of 13, I said to everyone, I don't want no birthday party. I'm not interested in anything like that. I just want tarot cards and dream books and crystals. And my whole family just brought me this. I accepted then at 13 that I was different, and I had to go on that path. But it took me from obviously a young child from the age of 1. So, yeah, about 12 years to decide who I was.
To accept it, yeah, within yourself. So, they talk a lot of times about when you hit puberty, spirit will stand back and allow you to develop as your own person. Did that happen for you?
No, not at all. It was absolutely mental. I mean, if the asylums were still around like you see them in all these horror films, I'd have probably been locked up quite a few times. No, because, I mean, I actually doing this, I actually noticed that it's more children under the age of 7 that they step away from. When their mind gets a little bit busier with school and learning. So obviously that never happened to me, and it always interfered in my schooling and learning. So yeah, it probably took me till I was about 23 to actually learn the on-off switch, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so you can do that. That's because that's a big thing of it, isn't it? Is being allowed to that mind space without them bombarding you all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something you have to learn, and it doesn't matter how many books that you read, it's about finding what's right for you. I mean, now it's just a click of the switch. I can go in somewhere I don't want to be on, I won't be on. If I want to be on, I'll turn myself on. That sounds rude, doesn't it?
Wow, Sam.
Were your family quite supportive of it all?
Yeah, they're majorly supportive. But I mean, I've got 7 children, and they've all seen and witnessed as well lots of things. My husband is a massive believer, but also a massive skeptic as well at the same time. So he won't believe unless he sees it, and he's seen and witnessed a hell of a lot. And I think because of who I am, being this vessel that allows energies to transmit through, I mean, my house is absolutely phenomenal with activity, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
Has that ever become a problem?
What, the energies in my home?
Yeah, so it becomes too intense at times for the family.
Oh yeah, we've had a few. We've had one major incident, to the point being that I wanted out of the house. I never wanted to live there again. Didn't want to go back in there because it happened to my daughter. And it was aired last year on Channel 4 because I wrote it in my book, this incident, and Channel 4 got hold of it and it ended up going in a docudrama. But even to this day, it's the most scariest thing I've ever witnessed, but I'm still in that home.
So what did you do to help resolve that situation?
I basically stood my ground. If you want to stay and you have to try and work with my rules. The energy that was actually doing this was my husband's father, who passed away. And there's many incidences he's actually gone for my children. I mean, my children have had to be resuscitated due to an energy that's close by. To say things like that, see, this is where I feel crazy or psycho, you know, because unless you're there and you witness it, you wouldn't ever believe it. Neither would I if I heard someone else telling me some of these stories. But one of the very first stories of when he came to take one of my children, not the incident that happened in the home, my third daughter, she was admitted to hospital and she had a lung condition and her lungs collapsed and she was only 6 weeks old. So, you know, she's on all these tubes and all these machines. And the doctors, her heart all of a sudden stopped beating. So they threw us out the room, me and my husband, and said, you know, you best go and make some calls. We don't think she's going to come back. So we're obviously two young parents in the hospital corridor, absolutely at our wits' end. And all of a sudden, my husband's mum rang. And at this point, we had them big brick mobile phones back in the day. And my husband got his phone out and said, oh, it's my mum. I said, well, we were told, you know, you best tell your mum what's going on. But all of a sudden, she just went, Jason, it's me. She went, Jimmy's just came to me in my sleep and told me that he's lonely and he's coming for children. But he's just seen you crying, don't worry. At that point, the doctor walked into the hospital area where we was and said, your daughter's back.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she didn't even know that the daughter was in hospital. So that's, you know, it's so much like that we've had. But obviously that's just a little bit of a snippet of what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure. But that put you, personally, on such a roller coaster of emotions through that time. And that spirit affecting your family to that level. Has there ever been a time where you've gone, enough, I'm turning the switch off for good?
I did. I turned the switch off for 6 years prior to me going to that event where Haunted Happenings were having their first one. And I was convinced because prior to going there, I'd gone to another, like to a witch weekend. And obviously I didn't need to communicate with spirit to be the witch. I could just carry on, you know, doing all the craft, etc. And my friend said, oh, come and Sam, please just go back on a ghost hunt. And I was like, I really don't want to, but she paid for me for this ticket. And we went to the Ram Inn and, bang, you're back on again.
Have you found it's more controlled since you've re-embraced?
I think it has its moments, really. I don't think, to be fair, to being a natural-born psychic medium, I don't think anything's ever in control, especially the unknown. So you can only control it to the best of your abilities. But if you're having a bad day, then it's going to be a little bit higher. If you're having a good day, it's going to be a little bit lower. So I think the best way to look at it is like a thermometer. It can either rise or go low, depending on the mood that you're in.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We have Jolene in the chat room. She's asked, what do you dislike about being a medium?
Going out for a social evening and never having a social evening. Every time you go somewhere and somebody new finds out what you do, that's the subject of conversation, so you never get a break.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's about not being able to just socialise for the fun.
So if you go to like a social gathering, even if you knew everybody in the room, is it like triple the amount of people that are in the room for you? Are there like loads of spirits wandering around at the same time?
You can always see people standing next to people, looking at. It's really weird because, I mean, every medium's different, and I'm not going to knock anybody about how they see and sense, but for having it my whole life. I've never known any different, and it is just like you're in waiting rooms all the time, and that's the only way to describe it. And I think the best ever film that I ever saw, and that kind of shows you a bit like it was Ghosts with Whoopi Goldberg. And I think that is probably the only and the best way to describe it. It's like that.
So where do you think it comes from? I mean, is it just a different realm? Is it a higher... where does this come from? Because there are different theories out there and different, understandings of it, which I'm sure you're aware of, because like you say, you're very skeptical as well as embracing your gift. So where do you think this ability comes from, or where you tune into? Where do you think that is?
I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to say what I say to everyone. We're all born psychic, because the first ever reaction that you do when you're born as a newborn is cry. And the reason that you cry as a newborn is to be lifted, because you're all of a sudden out in the open, you're out of the womb, you're out of the water, and the first thing is fear, and you want comfort. And that's your very first psychic ability that you ever use. So it's something that we're all born with, but like I said, as you get to between 5 and 7, it disappears, because some children are more interested in learning and being very excited that they're learning sentences or new songs and colours, and other children, a lot of children, like the special needs children, no offence to anybody that's got a special needs child, because I've got a couple of those, like the ASDs and the ADHDs and the ODDs, they're all, it depends on where they're born, but they're either an indigo child or a crystal child, again, all the spiritual. And I can always remember when my son, because he's really bad on the ASD and ADHD lines, and when he was in junior school, and he started saying he speaks to dead people, and it's this person called Joey that's making him be naughty and do things. But he was actually 8, 9 at the time. So the teacher wanted to call the mental health team, and I said, well, you best go and get them for me as well. And this is what upsets me quite a bit with all these children on these special needs, because a lot of them are hearing and seeing and sensing, because these psychic abilities have stayed with them more, but they are in that position where I was, where they don't know what to do, and that's where all the anger comes, the outbursts and the emotions. And that's where all that is. So it's about, I mean, I speak to lots of kids with the on the cusp of anything and chat with them all the time, because obviously I'm a counsellor as well in the psychic field, and we sit there and we chat, and I'd say 9 out of 10 are seeing and hearing.
Yeah, I've always said when they come to, obviously doing the crystal side of things, when I've had that situation, I explain it as you're just operating on a different frequency. You have to learn to live with that frequency within the normal society frequency. You know what I mean? And marry that two together. And it's not a problem. You just have to learn how to deal with that frequency difference.
Yeah, and don't fight it, because the ones that are fighting it are the ones that are harder to control. Yeah. Because they're not understanding what they're dealing with. And too many children are being labelled now, when really they should have more, even Reiki masters, in hospitals helping just to give them some calming and things like this, And secretly, I do know that a certain hospital in central London does actually have the Reiki team in there to help the elderly as they're ready to go in that transition period again into the new life.
Do you find that a trend?
That's quite a good idea.
The medical profession is starting to embrace different ways of working now, alternatives.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's a trend that's starting to happen? Because they were very, very dismissive at one point, weren't they? But I think they are starting to, aren't they?
Opening up the doors, but only in certain hospitals and things. But I think to be fair, it should be there and be open to a lot of people, not to just label anybody straight away if they've got traits or something that they've got this disability. Because the kid might be an amazing kid, but who's just stuck in a different realm or dimension with other people that he hasn't managed to focus on the right realm that he should be in.
Mm-hmm. Paul?
It's an interesting concept. I mean, I think the medical profession are taking more notice of things like that. I mean, they even do pet therapy as well now, don't they? Bringing in pets into old age people homes and things like that, because they notice that there is an effect it lifts their moods and things like that. So
Definitely.
yeah, I think having Reiki and stuff like that would definitely help.
Yeah, but I think as well, I mean, I personally, I like the psychic counselling that I do, because it's like, so I've got a doctorate in counselling, but on the psychic field. So I'm working with spirit that's working with the client that I'm dealing with at the same time, to help them overcome what they're dealing with. And to be fair, I think a lot more mediums and that should get into that field, especially if they're around children, because it's really, really good to be able to offer that support in a different way.
Do you find that helps? Yeah. Do you think psychic counselling helps better than normal counselling then?
Yeah, I actually think it does, because if you look at a lot of these youngsters, even adults, teenagers, you know, a lot of the time these issues that they're dealing with in their normal everyday life come more to fruition when something tragic has happened to them. So if you can say, for example, your granddad has passed over and it's really affecting you, and then it's going off the rails, but you're going through to talk to them a little bit more and offer a little bit more comfort or wisdom, it seems to be more supporting that child rather than the doctor down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. And it's actually quite a shamanic way of viewing things, isn't it? Because I know that when you work in a shamanic way, they view mental health in a very different way, and it is about the spiritual connection there regarding mental health than it is anything else, and it's sounding very almost shamanic.
Yeah, it is like on the cusp of that, yeah. But it's like anything you do every day. You know, I'm one of those people that I'll get up in the morning and say, okay, today is going to be a good day. That's those little words is me putting intent into the spiritual world that I'm going to have a good day today and it's not going to fall apart.
Yeah, we all try that one.
Yeah, I was going to say I tried that the other day and then decided just to go back to bed and start it again.
Sorry.
So how is how is it different for you when you're actually out investigating to how it is on a daily basis for you? So when you walk into a location of a night, it's all very quiet, there's only your team there, and you go into a location. How is that very different? Is it a different vibe because you're connecting with the building's memories and ghosts, as it were, or is it the same?
Well, to be honest with you, if I'm going to go to any haunted location, first I never read up about wherever I'm going, ever. Because to me, what's the point in going to an investigation if you've already read up about it? So I go to an investigation, and as I'm calling out the spirits to come forward, I want people that would have been in that building or venue who aren't even mentioned in history books. Does that make sense? For example, we went to Bromham Mill a few weeks ago and Penny Griffiths-Morgan came and joined us. Yeah. And I just threw these different names and dates, and she was like, I didn't read anything of this up on the history, and I had to send her away to research to find something different, which she did. She did manage to find some other stuff, but it's not always about the owner of the inn and the person that hung himself. You know, what about the people that were here 200 years before that inn, you know? And it's about finding all different people to come through. And you do get obviously find something that we have to go away and research. So and that's what I like. So
yes, that's the bit, isn't it? It's finding something that's not easily accessible, because then that validates your gift, rather than you coming out with the names and the dates of the people that all know, you know, you can just do a quick Google search and it comes up. It's finding that backstory and then the information to back up that backstory, and that's when it becomes interesting.
Yeah, and like Hellfire Caves, for example, the new manager Jack there, the amount of times I've come up to Jack in the break and said, right, Jack, I've got a new name. I've been doing Hellfire Caves for 15 years. I've got a new name. I want to know who this is, because he's telling me this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then it might take Jack 8 months. But eventually, you know, he'll say, Sam, I've got it. I found it. You know, and that to me is is overwhelming.
No, I totally agree with that. And that's the nugget. That's the things you're looking for from a psychic medium when you go to a location. Has there ever been a time when you've done a location where you've gone, oh, I'm not happy with that. That's not good?
Yeah, quite a few times. I've actually walked into rooms and I had to walk out and I wouldn't go back in that area at all the whole night. You get lots of feelings like that. And some people say, oh, come on, Sam, just go in there. And I'm like, no, I can't go in there. And one of the hardest ones with me was in the Clink many years ago, with the Clink in London. And the Clink is all open plan. There's nowhere to else go. So I had to stomach being in the Clink. But what I was feeling was something that I didn't want to be feeling. And then I was seeing it as well. And I don't know if you know, but I had a couple of stillbirths. And these were like backstreet abortions that I was feeling at late term. And then all of a sudden I was actually seeing the lady having the baby and it being ripped out of her, and it was my own stomach was going, but there was nowhere for me to run other than out into the London streets. And I had to in the end, and I literally threw up everywhere.
Oh gosh. But then that's a personal trigger for you. That's bringing back a really personal memory for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it was like a double whammy. Not only was I seeing and sensing somebody else going back in the 1600s, but I was also, it was like it was bringing it all back, and there was nothing I could do other than help the lady.
So how do your spirits guide fit into this?
Right, shall I be honest with you?
Yeah, please do.
And please, if there's anybody who's spiritually, a spiritual medium clairvoyant that's listening to this, I don't work with guides. I personally don't believe in guides. I believe in our higher self, and I believe in our loved ones that would come in and help. But the reason for this is obviously over the years of being that child and growing up into finding who I was. Like I said, I was at Spiritualist Churches at 18, and I used to actually go prior to 18 and watch all the mediums on the stage, and they'd always say, oh, you've got a guide, and you had a red Indian at the back, and to the left you had a cowboy, and, everybody kind of had the same person. And this went on for about 10 years. About who I was. I used to say, okay, if I've got a guide, who are you? Who are you? Come and show me yourself. Never to this day. But I know if I could say, okay, to like my sister, she died last year, and if I wanted to, and I could say, Karen, can you come forward? I can guarantee I'll probably get my sister.
Now that's fascinating, actually, because I would say, 99% of other mediums we've spoken to over the time, or people that I've known, will always say that they've got that spirit guide that will, if they're out investigating or they're out in a situation, that spirit guide will be that doorkeeper, as it were.
Yeah.
And you don't buy into that?
No, it's like I said, I won't mock anybody with any of their beliefs. I'm a very big supporter with everybody. But, I've been doing this for since the age of 1, but I'd say, let's say work from the age of 13. And all that time, I've never, ever come across a spirit guide for myself. I've never seen anyone else's spirit guide. I just believe you're working with your higher self, and that's, I think, we've all got that higher self within us. It's just like the Bible and the Quran and all these other things that you follow. They believe in, but the person that they really are worshipping is your higher self, and that's who I work with.
Maybe it's just a case of with other mediums, they just feel that they need that extra buffer, that cushion, just in case anything negative comes towards them. Yeah, they've got that spirit guide there to protect them.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't ever take that off of them. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not my right to do that. It's not my right to say to them, but I've always been upfront and honest. And I think a lot of people like the fact that I'm upfront and honest. And I don't believe in that, but it doesn't mean they're not there. I've just never seen anybody.
That's it. But then you've got your own mindset. Yeah. And I've always said, with mediums in particular, especially when it comes to the protection side of things, when they're doing protection with the guests and stuff at events, I've seen it done so many ways. It's almost like, trying to put it into layman's terms, it's like brainwashing people to believe that they're protected.
Yeah.
So once they've got that lodged in their mind that they're protected, then they've got that mindset. So I think that's pretty much all a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely, and I totally agree that. I mean, I used to do events where we always had to do the opening and closing circle, but you're going there on a lot of events to have that little bit of fear. You're going there on that event to see something. If you're going to protect yourself too much and your subconscious takes over and allows you to feel that you're that protected, you're not going to see nothing.
That's it. I've always gone in, and although we've done the protection for the guests, I've always stayed out of it because I'm not interested in that. If anything bad's going to happen to anyone, I want it to happen to me, because then I can say I've had that experience.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I go to these sort of things. But yeah, I've always avoided the.
If guests come to my events and they want protection, I will happily give it to them. You know, I would do a charge.
We always had like spiritualists and mediums and stuff on our events as staff, and they've done the group protections. But if anyone else wanted the extra, like say their child, they would sit with them and do their own stuff. I personally don't see the point.
It's nice to offer both, and you know, and I think that's what's quite good in the field. You don't all have to stick by one rule. You can do it, or you don't have to do it. And I think it's nice to have the offer, you know, the option.
Yeah, reassurance is very important in the game.
Particularly for newbies who are going into a situation they've got a fear factor already in there. Yeah. You know, they're going out in a haunted place in the middle of the night, and it's all so exciting and scary, and they're out for that thrill of experience. Yeah. And then so you go, do you want some protection? And they're like, well, yeah, like, duh, because there are demons here, right?
Well, that's it. We went to Shrewsbury Prison one year, and there was a lady that come with us, a group of ladies, and a couple of them had watched these TV shows and never really experienced the real activity. Yeah. And it scared them so much. I mean, we'd done the protection as a group, and then when they split into smaller groups, they'd done protection there. When they had their experience, they were so upset and so scared that we took them out of the area. We sat them down, give them tea, coffee, just calmed them down a bit, and then they said they wanted more protection because they were quite worried that the spirit would come with them.
Yeah,
and we done our best to explain that no, the spirit will stay here. It's fine. They won't want to go over.
We have guests that are a little bit worried about them leaving. We tell them to visualise a rope on their waist to the building and then cut it.
Well,
that's a good one. Yeah, the cut and bind, the bind and cut thing is quite good.
We've done extra protection with them again, more 1-to-1, and then they were quite happy and sort of left. And that they were fine. So it's again reassurance.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a bad thing, I don't think. So of all the places, because you've been investigating for an awful long time, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's your favourite?
Other than my house, is Brendan Hall, but I'm talking about that on a few episodes time.
Yeah, don't do no sneaky spoilers. Penny will kill me.
But then after Grendon Hall, Cowdray House, some people call it Cowdray Castle in Portsmouth, it's the ruins. What I witnessed there with the guests was absolutely phenomenal. And then obviously I love Hellfire Caves as well, to be fair.
I liked Hellfire Caves.
I've never been.
Oh, you've got to go. It is. You get really active nights, and you get really, literally nights. But no, you've got to go. You've got to go.
I went just as a tourist. Please excuse it. Sam is surrounded by children at the moment, in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
But I visited in the day, but it's definitely what I like about each location you go into is the definite distinction in energy that you get when you hit a different location. And you might not necessarily get any activity, but it's just that energy that you walk into when you go to an old building or an old place. And you don't have to go at night to get that. You know, every place is its own feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like, it doesn't even have to be a building, just places where history are, walking through the woods and things like that, and you still feel it. Yeah. I've done many different woods investigations over the years, and sometimes they're even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a wood in the middle of the night, Sam. I'm not going to lie.
Me too.
So, going forward, right, you've got so much experience in so many different areas. There's one thing you do that it's always intrigued me. I've never really understood this from a spiritual perspective. The Hopi ear candle thing.
Yeah. Basically, that just goes back to the Red Indians, the Hopi Indians, and it's ear candling, which is like a meditation. You'll lie down and you'll be on a therapy bed, and it's 10 minutes in each ear and a facial massage. But it opens all your sinuses. But it's also really good for like Legionnaire's disease. Like people that suffer with like labyrinthitis, all different things like this. So it's a heat flame. So it's working with heat. And it gives you a big. If you ever suffer with sinuses, headaches, dizzy spells, anything like that, and if you haven't got a blocked eardrum, you've got to go for it, because it's like hearing. You hear, it's like like a frying pan with bacon. That's
all right, that sizzle, like a sizzle.
Yeah, in your ear, and obviously the candle will burn, and the candle it can stay clear. The flame can stay clear. If it stays clear, that's fine. You're okay. You don't have to come back for it again until you feel that you need to. But looking at the flame work and work with the flame, and the flame will tell you whether or not there's a blockage in the ear and things like that, and then afterwards you can see it that it brings out. So it's another release, really.
Wow. See, because I see these. I see these. I generally have a go at most things, particularly on the spiritual front. I do like to have a go. Is all I can say, because you never know how it might resonate with you.
People that love it.
I mean, I went for a shamanic healing cleansing session after a particularly bad time in my life. Oh my God, it was so empowering.
Yeah, totally agree.
So you have to give it a go.
I mean, and the thing is, there's lots of different therapies. It's like I do light therapy, colour therapy, heat therapy, sound therapy. They're all different therapies that you do. And, the light therapy that I do is I have to lie underneath, and you can go on lucid dreaming trips, and you can go on out-of-body experience trips on it, or you can use it for headaches again, or just to calm your anxiety and things down. And funny enough, it was a team member from Yorkshire Ghost Hunts she'd had migraines for 25 years, and she actually went on the light therapy, and even 3 months after that treat, I haven't spoken to her since, but 3 months afterwards, she said she hadn't had a headache since that day.
Awesome.
So there's different therapies you can try. But the light therapy, there's only, last time I heard, I think there was about 400 of these lights in the whole of the world. So they are still new, and it's trying to get people to try something different.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it's the fear factor of what that people might experience into these therapies. But if you're open-minded, it's well worth a go, because you don't know what's going to happen. And say some of the most powerful spiritual experiences I've had have actually been through, these kind of things. Like one of those was the shamanic healing I had, but I also had a sound bath that was absolutely incredible as well. But you just have to go with it and not over question. You just let it happen. Yeah, I like to bring the light machine with me, like when we do our healing weekends. I'll bring that, and then I book all the guests in prior to the event starting, so they all have a bit of light therapy beforehand. Yeah, as well.
I think it's also about awareness as well, because not many people, because it's new. Not many people would know, and sometimes, I mean, I know. I suffer from migraines, and if I have a migraine, I'd happily try anything to try and get rid of it.
Yeah.
You could tell me anything, I'll give it a go.
The next time you get a migraine, Paul, hook me up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're doing the therapies for people, which is like a different thing, isn't it? Because that's a very personal inner thing for that person. How does that affect you being a medium in that way, or are you shut down at that point and it's about the therapy?
I try to go in always like it's about the therapy, but somehow my switch seems to always kick in, especially if my hands are hovering over certain parts of the body, and then I'm like, oh my God, they need to go to the doctors and get this checked out and such and such. So they end up kind of getting a mini read as well as I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end, because I'll ask them at the end what they felt, and then they say to me, but did you feel something, Sam? And I'll say, well, actually, yeah. But to be fair, with doing what I've done, I've actually saved quite a few people's lives as well, by seeing things like brain tumours and heart issues. There was one person that I did therapy for many years ago, and obviously afterwards, well, it wasn't even afterwards, it was during, I had to stop. And I said, I'm really sorry, I'm stopping, but we need to get you to an optician now. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, we need you to stop this. Let's get in a car and get you to an optician. And she was like, why? I said, I don't want to scare you. I said, but I'm seeing something. I just need to get it clarified. Luckily, she was with... It's not a thing that I would go out of my way to do, if that makes any sense, because I'm not about giving upsetting news, but I knew that I had to get her there. So we went to this optician who obviously booked her in straight away. He had a look at her eyes and said, I've got to get you straight to the hospital. She had a brain tumour.
Oh,
and
my word.
she was operated on that night. And they said if she'd waited 2 days, she wouldn't have been here. Yeah, so sometimes you have to act, if that makes sense. Not that you want to do that, because I'm not about giving bad news.
No, it's one of those moral dilemmas, isn't it, that you come across sometimes in the work that you do.
Yeah, and it is hard. But she said, you know, she wouldn't have been here if it weren't for me. And you know, she's still alive now. She's managed to have her life.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So you're doing, you do tarot reading as well, don't you?
Yeah.
And you're doing a thing at the moment where somebody draws their own tarot card.
Yeah. It's about learning how to do tarot, Kerry. And we do every spiritual event that we go on, and even witch school, we always do a tarot reading to begin with, on your own card, because everyone's readings change on a daily basis. So usually I actually get everyone to do 6 cards, and I'll give 6 different shapes to go into this card. And from that shape, they have to make a picture out of that shape. And then I'll say to them, no, I want to fill it up even more, because everyone just does a little bit, you know, and get as much detail into it. And then I give them a number to put on whatever card they want, and then I'll give them a title. For example, home life. I could have given you a square and you might have drawn a house, and then I gave you the number 4 for home life, and that goes on your picture that you had actually drawn a house on, but you didn't know. And so straight away everyone's like, oh my God. And then I will read that card, because even though, like with the major cards, like the normal tarot, the Rider-Waite, for example, 78 cards in a deck, and you get this big a booklet, don't you, with all the reading. And as a youngster, I read all of these books, and I read it back to front, and I could have quoted everything back to front, you know, of what it all meant. But on growing with the cards, I realised that's just a beginner's guide, really, of what they mean, and it's the picture itself is what tells you what's going on in someone's life. So what I'm doing on my group at the moment is asking people to show them how to do your own tarot card and actually get a reading from it. So they can draw absolutely nothing. It could just be squiggles. You know, it's like flower reading. You know, you read a flower. It could be dying, the flower. It could be healthy. Who knows? If somebody gave me a flower, but if you've been holding it, I could read that flower. And it's something that will be unique for them as well. And we do it, we've been doing it all year. And tarot, and it's quite nice. Get 70 your own deck. Who knows? Hello.
Yeah, I do find the flower reading quite interesting, to be fair. I've experienced that once before, and the medium was quite accurate in sort of where I got the flower from and why I picked it and stuff. It was quite really interesting, that one. So no, that's fascinating. I think
it's different. That's what I like to. I like to be different and try different things. I learn. I might have been doing this all these years, and I was only saying it to some of my team the other day. But I'm still learning. And every day is a new day of learning, and it's trying different things to work with you as well. And so that's why I'm doing the tarot one, so people can draw what they feel, or even if it's, for example, you're having a really bad time, draw a pretty picture. It don't have to be about what you're going through at that particular time. Just draw whatever you feel that you need to put to pen to paper. One, it's a release for your mental health and your mind, but two, you'll get a reading from it.
Yeah. Oh, I can understand that. Is there any like projects that you've or skills that you haven't learned how to use yet that you want to learn?
Spiritually, I tell you what, it's not something I've ever learned. It's something I never was interested in. And my nan did actually get me to start off when I got everything else, and that was crystals. Crystals and me, we don't get on. Obviously, I've got a couple of girls that run the Crystal Harmony Sanctum, and I'm constantly buying crystals off them because they keep telling me I need them. But I couldn't tell you what the hell they were for. And even now, all these years later, 30-odd years later, crystals and me don't get on. But I try, but I don't think any spiritualist will be 100% in everything that they do. Some may be 200% in something that they do, and there might only be 50% in another. But if you give me a crystal, I'm 1%. I'm not going to.
Yeah, so I'm not one. I mean, Kerry's more the one for crystals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of learning through Kerry about different crystals and things
I'm
like that.
trying to learn as well. But, yeah.
I do sort of try and wind her up sometimes and just call them stones, but. We was around her house the other day, and she actually gave me a couple of crystals, and she said, "Just feel them. Can you feel the difference in the energy?" And I must admit, you could. There was a slight difference, but as for trying to explain it like for me, because I'm completely, very skeptical and question everything. It's like, how do I put this into words? It was a strange experience.
Yeah.
Should I say?
So I've got one crystal that I am querying, which is the A23. Apparently it's a crystal that's got a bit of everything in, and when I feel like crap, the girls say to me, "Get your A23," but this thing seems to disappear on me all the time. It's like spirit are hiding it all the time. But when I do get it and I put it in my hands burn. So that's quite questionable.
See, I definitely think that I'm not made for crystals, because I buy these pendulums and stuff for the paranormal work that we do. I buy pendulums. I've got the tourmaline bracelets for protection, and they just disappear after about a week, and it's like I've got no idea where these things go.
It's
I don't think I'm destined for crystals.
I'm covered in crystals because the girls make me buy them all. And then I'm like, what's the point of me buying them? They keep breaking. They say, well, you don't need that one now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay then. But one day, before I pass over, I will learn them.
Yeah, it's definitely. Kerry will be able to tell you all about the crystals.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So have you got any new projects on the go?
Sorry?
Have you got any new projects on the go that's coming up soon? Or?
Well, on Saturday we're off to. I'm going to have to try and get this right. I don't know if it's Chellington, and it's a old refurbished church, and we're doing a sleepover. We're doing it with the members of the public as well. But what we're doing is we're doing a chakra workshop to begin with. Then I'm going to do a mediumship night, and then we're going to do the paranormal investigation, and then we're doing transfiguration at the end, and then we're all sleeping and waking up to bacon butties.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's the first of its kind in the church. So we've got that weekend, and then we've got Mandel after for Paranormal Charity Warriors and raising money for Lipodystrophy UK, and we're with Lee Roberts, Peter and Ryan Griffiths-Williams from The Haunted. Ashley Buckingham's joining us from Celebrity Ghost Hunt, and also Hayley Slater from EastEnders, or her real name Katie Jarvis, she's joining us as well. So we're hoping to raise a lot of money there. Then we've got... Sorry?
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen the advert for that, because Parasearch support the Charity Warriors. So we advertise their events.
Yeah, we've seen that. Thank you for that. And then the weekend after, we've got a little project. There's a few of us meeting up to do something secret at the moment, but hopefully we'll be able to tell the paranormal world in a few months' time down the line. And then I think we've got a week off or something, and then we're off to Pluckley, just as some team building, really. And then we go back into like our holidays and then back into all the events. And then we've got School of Witchcraft coming up in November.
Oh, sounds busy.
Yeah, we're always busy.
Excellent. No, that's good. Yeah. So, looking forward to hearing all about what's coming up in the future.
Yeah, no,
especially with the one you can't tell us about yet.
Yeah, no, that's quite exciting. I think it'd be if it goes to plan, it's going to be really good.
Yeah. When you've been doing investigations, have you ever come across spirit that wants to be passed over, and have you passed anyone over?
Right, so back in the day, it was a thing that a lot of people used to do, was pass them over, and obviously I've done a lot of clearings. Funny enough, I had a message today for a clearing to do, but it got to the point being that a lot of venues started complaining. I mean, I'm going about 20 odd years ago, because they're making a living for these hauntings, and if you're clearing them all the time, then they're not going to make any money. So it's a thing that I don't do now. I don't do it. I refuse to do it. Unless the owner of the building wants you to do it, then it's a different story. But on a public investigation, no, it's something that I wouldn't do. Okay,
yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, but again, everyone's to their own. I think, to be fair, 90% of those spirits want to be there anyway, but they're just a little bit confused and just need a little bit of guidance in the direction of where they should be on that dimension that they're in, or a percentage of them aren't aware that they've passed over. They still aren't accepting that. So, you've got to kind of let them know softly, that that's kind of happened to them. And then you can get, I mean, it's like a lot of house clearances. When I go and do them, I'd say 80% of the time, you don't have to clear if you talk to them, and they're willing to abide by the new owner's rules. But obviously, to begin with, it's quite fearful for the owner, because they don't know what they're dealing with, or their children are seeing it, and it's affecting their sleep patterns. But once you get, it's just like speaking to anybody that's living. If you work together, things can work out all right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. Yeah. Have you ever come across anything that you can't handle, whether it's by yourself or you've had to bring in other people to sort of reinforce what you do to push the spirit?
No, I've come across something I couldn't handle, and even to this day I'm still questioning it. But I never called anyone in. I've had a few teams that I've had quite a few teams that want to come into my home to just sense and see it. But it was like a dark mist. That's the only thing I woke up to this dark mist trying to kill me, and it was around my throat, and I was fighting it, and it felt, all I could feel was muscles. But when I say muscles, I'm talking about, like the size of a 30 centimetre ruler.
Yeah,
how big the muscles were that were around my throat, and like on the arms of the hands that were around, or whatever it was that was around my throat, and I actually thought I was dying, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't concentrate, and I couldn't scream. But eventually, I just carried on fighting against it and managed to sit myself up and spin myself around. And I just saw the darkest of dark mist from floor to ceiling just glide on the carpet. But literally, there was no gap from carpet to ceiling, out of my daughter's bedroom, into the hallway and into the bathroom, and off it went. And I can remember banging on one of my other daughter's rooms then and opening the door, and I looked at her, and she's like, "Oh my God, what have you seen?" She said my eyes were just like hanging out of my head, and I had all these marks over my neck. And so that was quite a scary encounter.
Was that just a one-off?
Was it a one-off? Trying to kill me, yeah, was a one-off. But no, the many people that have witnessed it in my house. If that makes any sense. Yeah, but
you tried to get rid of that spirit then?
No, I didn't. Never got rid of it. Do you know what? I know it sounds it sounds wrong. Sometimes I get a bit bored if the house is too quiet, and I like sit there and go, I want to talk. So I think I don't want to get rid, but I'm not going to be fearful either, and you're not going to make me fearful in my own home. If you want to be here and you want to visit, that's fine, but just be a bit careful. I've got kids. Luckily, my kids have never been harmed. They've seen and they've sensed, and they've woke up with them standing around them, etc., but they've never been touched. Friends have been touched, adults have been touched, but not the children.
Interesting. Have you sort of sat down with the kids then? And
Sorry,
I said, have you ever actually sat down with the kids? Have you sat down with the kids and taught them how to control their gift?
Yeah, a few of them don't want to even be involved in the gift, should I say. A few of them don't want to talk about it, they don't want to see it, they don't want to witness any of it. Others of them want to work with it and learn it more. And the others are like, well, do I have to? Do you know what I mean? They all look at it differently. So like I said, I've got 7 children. My eldest is 25. She can see, and it craps the life out of her, so she just shuts off. The second eldest is massively, she can go and read anybody, you know, she can tell you your whole life, your door number, the lot, but it petrifies her because she don't know where it's coming from and she don't want to learn. The third one was into it for many, many years, and just grew out of it. She grew out of it by the time she was about 19, so the last few years that she's grown out of it. Prior to that, she'd be at an investigation, and she could do amazing trance work with people. My fourth one is part of my team. She is part of the team. She loves it all. She had a major experience at home, and the one that I said earlier on in the programme about that was Channel 4 did a docudrama on, and she's fascinated by it all. My son has seen like as a younger, and he like comes and helps on the team as well. My 12-year-old just wants to get out there in the field. She just wants to get out there. She's been reading tarot since she was 7 to the members of the public. From about 8.5, she was reading the tarot to them. And my 5-year-old has seen and sensed, but she always says, "Mum, can you get an Ouija board out? Mum, can we do a ghost hunt?" But yeah, so it's when they're ready to be protected, we will go through that. But at the same time, they've got to, and again, this might sound wrong with me as a mother or a spiritualist, but I feel everyone has to learn their own way and be unique themselves. Everyone shouldn't be the same. So I think each child needs to know when they're ready to do it or ready not to do it, if that makes any sense to you. As and when they ask for the help, then I will help them, which I have done in the past. But like my 5-year-old and my 12-year-old, they're happy to talk about it all day and do it all day long, if they could.
Yeah. So you've got your own paranormal investigation team right there.
I have. The new generation.
Richard in the chat room wants to know, do you get involved in more conventional investigations, i.e. using tech? So when you go on an investigation, what sort of tech do you use, if any? Okay, so
obviously we've all got the gadgets and we always take them out because obviously the public like to see. It's not always about me, and I don't make it about me. Make the guests, it's their night and they're the investigators, so we'll use whatever gadgets they want to use. We'll use like the REM pods, and we'll use the K2s and the trank boxes, and we like the grid lights. The grid lights are pretty good, and we've been trying a few apps recently, like the Portal app. I'm still questioning that, because if that was made to be a fake, what evidence I received through it was phenomenal. So I'm still questioning that and trying to see if it's a fake and is it on a ring loop or something like that. But I think my overall best gadget is the dictaphone, the EVP, due to the fact that as a medium, your hearing is like 10 decibels higher than a normal person, so to speak, just like a dog. Do you know, like the dog have that in a hearing? A medium's the same. So we can sometimes, like when you're in a group and you're in a circle and you hear someone say John or something like that, and no one else hears it, it's because your hearing's on that level. And that's what the dictaphone does. The dictaphone is picking up that little bit higher. So, but I've had some outrageous, crazy, mental messages through an EVP. But I do use all the gadgets and I try all the gadgets, but I think the EVP is definitely my favourite. I'm obviously recently, like I said, been playing with the Portal app quite a bit, still questioning it. But at the same time, I'm open to try anything, and I do like to try things. I mean, I like the SLS camera because it looks good. I own an SLS camera, and I've had, again, amazing evidence. But every time, I don't really watch a lot of the paranormal shows because I don't have time to, really. But the ones that I do that have had the SLS camera on, I'm like, hang on a second, that's the wardrobe or that's the curtain, you know. And to me, that's a gadget that I feel still needs to be questioned a bit more.
I think we done an investigation to Kelvin Hatch a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
And PSH Radio does a show Thursdays, and Cole Hutchinson does it on Parasearch. And he bought a new bit of kit with him. It's based on the SLS, but it's almost like the next level up from the SLS. So it's almost like it's evolved.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I think the SLS camera is very basic, and it's not developed enough for the paranormal field. So I don't rate it at all. I would never have one on one of my investigations because the data you can collect from it can be...
The only thing, Paul, that I see on an SLS was the day that I got it, and this is the only time that I thought, oh, this could be. And I was in my friend's house, one of the girls in the team was at her house, and I said, hang on a sec, have you got a dog experience? She's like, why? I said, I've got a dog sitting next to you. And as she walked to the left, the dog followed her. And as she walked to the right, the dog followed her. And as she stood in the middle, the dog just laid down. Obviously, it was a kitchen unit that's there, but even the outline of it, and I didn't know that she'd had a dog in the spirit at this particular time. So that was the first and only piece on the SLS camera that I thought, okay, that could be good evidence. Other than that, everything that they said, oh, there's somebody standing there, you can see it's the pillar in the wall, do you know what I mean? So to me, it was a gadget that was.
Yeah, so I know that there is going to be a new bit of kit coming out soon. I know Cole was trialling it, basically. So there will be a new bit of kit coming out to do with the SLS, but it is a lot better.
Okay, good. I have to look out for that one.
Yeah, and if you go back in our shows, look out for the Kelvin Hatch show we did, and Cole was talking about it then, so obviously you can go into a bit more detail about what it is. So have a listen. But
I mean, we get all these gadgets because the guests want them, you know. A lot of the team want to use it as well. And it's also, we've got Kelly Ellis is one of her little, do you know the hands-free Ouija board that she's got? The Casper, I can't remember what it's called it. I've actually seen that go, you know, only the once, but it went. And that was on a concrete floor that was level. So there's more, and it's like I said to Kerry, we just need a little bit more in there. You know, I personally felt maybe the needle needed to be different because if something was trying to work with it, but obviously, again, it's at beginning stages, but I think she's got a good idea on her hands.
I mean, isn't that sort of based on the magnetic field?
Yeah.
So I do something similar, although it's not a Ouija board. I just use a basic compass.
All right, yeah.
Exactly the same principle. Obviously, with Kelly, she's done the Ouija board design around it, but you know the compass works just as good.
Yeah, I have to try that.
It's a good idea, though. Absolutely, it's good. Good evolving the ideas and coming up with new ones. Definitely try
new ideas as well.
Yeah, it's good to try new things. Anyway, I'm always up for that. And yeah, as I said, with the SLS, it was a case of it's too basic. I don't like it, and then someone's evolved it. Yeah. So no, it's all good. Anyway, sadly, we've come to the end of the show.
Okay.
I know this time goes so fast. I don't know whether Kerry sorted out her major issue indoors, but she might be there in the background somewhere. So I just want to thank you for joining me tonight, and Kerry. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to have you on again. Carry on this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about loads.
We could go on for ages. And I want to thank everyone in the chat room for joining us tonight. Thanks for all your questions and stuff. And yeah, everything I could possibly say has been said. So it's good night from me. And if Kerry was here, it would be good night from Kerry. So good night, Sam.
Good night. Take care and sleep well.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you all again next week on the Paranormal Concept Show.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.